Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the stars disappear one by one. Each vanishing light meant another world had fallen to the void swarm. The alien creatures moved like a dark wave across the galaxy, eating everything in their path. They did not take prisoners or build cities. They simply consumed and moved on to the next world. Lisa pressed her hand against the cold metal wall of her ship. The Defiance was one of humanity's newest battleships, built with thick armor and powerful weapons. But even this mighty vessel felt small when she thought about what was coming. The Void Swarm had destroyed civilizations that were millions of years older than humanity. They had weapons and technology that humans could barely understand. A soft chime drew her attention to the communication screen. The face of Admiral Grace Chen appeared, her expression grave and tired. Captain Martinez, we have received another evacuation offer from the Elven Confederation. They are willing to take 50,000 humans to their refuge dimension. Lisa shook her head. We've been through this before, Admiral. Humanity voted to stay and fight. I know, Chen replied. But the Council wants me to ask one more time. The Kethmori Empire has also offered transport to their backup worlds beyond the Galactic Rim. We could save millions of lives. The captain turned to look out at the stars again. Earth hung like a blue jewel in the distance, surrounded by defense platforms and warships. Humanity had built everything they could to protect their home, but would it be enough? With respect, Admiral, running away won't save us in the long run. The swarm will find those hiding places eventually. Someone has to make a stand. Chen nodded slowly. She had expected this answer. Very well, Captain. Continue your patrol of the outer system. And Lisa? Good luck. The screen went dark, leaving Lisa alone with her thoughts. She walked to the tactical display where red dots showed the positions of human ships throughout the solar system. There were fewer than she would have liked, but every vessel was crewed by volunteers who had chosen to stay and fight. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan entered the bridge, her Marine uniform crisp despite the long hours she had been working. Captain, we have a situation in Cargo Bay 3. 2 refugees are requesting permission to join our crew. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Refugees? I thought all the evacuation ships had left. These are different, ma'am. One is an elf from the Sylvan Door system. The other is a Kethmori warrior. They both refuse to leave with their people. The captain felt a spark of curiosity. She had heard stories about these species, but had never met any in person. The elves were known for their magic and long lives, while the Kethmori were famous as fierce warriors with natural armor. Take me to them. The cargo bay was filled with supplies and equipment, but Lisa's attention was drawn to 2 figures standing near the entrance. The elf was tall and graceful, with silver hair that seemed to glow in the artificial light. Her pointed ears and elegant features marked her as royalty among her people. The Kethmori was shorter but much broader, covered in scales that looked like natural armor. Her reptilian face showed determination and strength. I am Princess Aria Moonwhisper of the House of Sylvandor, the elf said, bowing slightly. And this is Zexira of the Kethmori War Clan. We seek to join your fight against the Void Swarm. Lisa studied both aliens carefully. Your people evacuated to safety. Why didn't you go with them? Aria's expression hardened. My people call it strategic retreat. I call it cowardice. We have fought the swarm for 300 years. When they finally reached our core worlds, the Confederation abandoned everything to save themselves. They left billions to die. Zexira growled in agreement. My clan leaders said the same thing. They said humans are primitive and doomed to fail. They said we should save ourselves for future battles. But I have studied your species, Captain Martinez. Humans do not run from fights they believe in. That's true, Lisa admitted, but this isn't your fight. You could still catch up with your people. No, Aria said firmly. I watched my homeworld burn while my people fled through quantum gates. I will not run again. If humanity is willing to make a last stand, then I will stand with you. Zexira nodded. The Kethmori taught me that honor is more important than survival. There is no honor in running from an enemy that must be stopped. I choose to fight. Lisa felt something stir in her chest. Hope, maybe, or just respect for these brave souls who had given up everything to join a desperate cause. What can you offer us? I am a military strategist and a practitioner of combat magic, Arya replied. I know swarm tactics and weaknesses. I also know elven technology that might help your weapons. I am a veteran of 47 battles against the swarm, Zexira added. I know their ground forces and how they fight. I can train your marines in new combat techniques. The captain made her decision quickly. Welcome aboard the Defiance. But I want you both to understand something. This isn't just about fighting the swarm. We're trying to prove that some things are worth dying for. That running away isn't always the smart choice. Arya smiled for the first time since boarding the ship. Captain, my people lived for thousands of years by being careful and cautious. They survived by avoiding risks. But survival without purpose is just existing. Humans understand something we forgot. Sometimes you have to risk everything to save what matters most. Agreed, Zexira rumbled. The Kethmori forgot their own teachings. We became so focused on preserving our strength that we forgot why we were strong in the first place. Humans remember that strength means nothing if you don't use it to protect others. Lisa nodded and activated her communicator. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Martinez. I'm sending you the files on 2 new crew members, an elven princess, and a Kethmori warrior who want to help us fight. I think they might be exactly what we need. As the 3 women walked toward the bridge together, Lisa felt something she hadn't experienced in months. For the first time since the swarm had appeared on the galactic horizon, humanity was not alone in their fight. Maybe, just maybe, their stubborn refusal to retreat would inspire others to stand and fight as well. 3 weeks after Arya and Zexira joined the crew, the first test of their alliance came at Kepler Station. The mining colony sat on the edge of human space, extracting rare metals needed for ship construction. When the Void Swarm scouts appeared in the system, most expected the humans to abandon the station and fall back to stronger positions. Captain Lisa Martinez had other plans. She stood in the war room of the Defiance, studying holographic displays with her new allies. The station's position made it perfect for testing their combined tactics before the main swarm arrived. The elven approach would be to use stealth ships for hit-and-run attacks, Arya explained, pointing to the tactical display. We strike fast, disappear, and let the enemy waste energy chasing shadows. Zexira shook her scaled head. Kethmori doctrine says you meet the enemy head-on. Use overwhelming force to break their formation, then hunt down the survivors. Both approaches have merit, Lisa said diplomatically, but we need something new, something the swarm hasn't seen before. Dr. Maya Patel entered the room carrying a data pad. The young scientist had been studying swarm biology since their first encounters. Captain, I think I know why other species fear the swarm so much. They use psychic attacks to break enemy morale. Most aliens are susceptible to mental domination. Most aliens? Arya asked, her pointed ears twitching with interest. Human brains seem to be naturally resistant, Maya continued. We're too chaotic and unpredictable. The swarm can't get a good mental grip on us. Zexira growled thoughtfully. That explains why my people were so eager to retreat. The swarm's psychic pressure affects reptilian minds strongly. But if humans are immune, then we can get closer to them than anyone else, Lisa finished. Close enough for boarding actions. The plan they developed was unlike anything any of their species had tried before. Human ships would charge directly at the swarm vessels, using their mental immunity to get close. Elven stealth technology would hide their approach until the last moment. Kethmori warriors would lead the boarding parties, their natural armor, perfect for close combat. Kate Sullivan wasn't entirely convinced. The Marine commander had been training mixed units of humans and the few alien volunteers who had stayed behind. Captain, my people are brave, but they're not used to working with magic and alien tech. This could go badly. Everything could go badly, Lisa replied, but doing nothing definitely will go badly. The swarm scouts arrived 2 days later. 5 bioships emerged from hyperspace, each one the size of a human cruiser. They moved with organic grace, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine as she watched them approach. These weren't machines built for war. They were living creatures designed for one purpose: consumption. All ships, this is Captain Martinez, she announced over the fleet communications. Operation Harmony is now active. Human vessels Alpha and Beta begin your approach runs. Elven cloaking engaged. Keth Mori boarding teams prepare for deployment. The Defiance led the charge, its engines burning bright as it accelerated toward the nearest swarm ship. Lisa could feel the alien vessel trying to probe her mind, sending waves of fear and despair. But the mental attacks felt weak, like trying to hold water in a broken cup. Her human brain simply couldn't process the alien thoughts properly. Beside her, Arya worked at a console covered in glowing elven symbols. "Cloaking field stable, Captain. The swarm can't see us clearly." "Distance to target, 8,000 kilometers. And closing," reported the navigation officer. On the tactical display, Lisa watched as the other human ships made their own attack runs. The swarm vessels moved to intercept, their bioweapons charging with dangerous energy. But they seemed confused by the human ship's erratic movement patterns and the elven cloaking technology. 4,000 kilometers. "Deploying boarding pods," Kate announced from the marine deck. The specially modified escape pods launched from the Defiance's hull, each one carrying a mixed team of human marines and Keth Mori warriors. Arya had enchanted the pods with elven magic to make them harder to detect. As they flew toward the swarm ship, Lisa held her breath. "Contact!" Zexira's voice crackled over the radio. "Boarding successful. Keth Mori warriors are engaging swarm drones. Human backup is effective." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The plan was working. The swarm had never faced an enemy that combined 3 different tactical approaches. Their bioships were designed to counter the predictable strategies of individual species, not this chaotic mixture of human aggression, elven cunning, and Keth Mori strength. "Captain, I'm reading massive damage to the first swarm vessel," Maya reported from her science station. "The boarding teams have reached the central nervous system." Through the view screen, Lisa watched as the first bioship began to convulse. Its bioluminescent patterns flickered and died as the boarding teams destroyed its brain-equivalent organs. Within minutes, the massive creature was drifting dead in space. "1 down, 4 to go," Kate's voice came through the communications. "Deploying second-wave boarding pods." The remaining swarm ships tried to adapt to this new threat. They launched clouds of smaller drone creatures to intercept the boarding pods. But Arya's magic created barriers of energy that deflected the attacks, while Zexira's warriors carved through any drones that got close. By the end of the battle, all 5 swarm scouts were destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost, though several had taken damage. More importantly, they had proven that their alliance could work in combat. Lisa stood in the observation deck later that evening, watching recovery teams salvage what they could from the dead bioships. Arya and Zexira joined her, both looking tired but satisfied. "Your people fight with incredible courage," Arya said. "No wonder the swarm cannot break human morale. You simply refuse to believe you can lose." "It's more than that," Zexira added. "Humans adapt faster than any species I've known. You took our ideas and made them into something completely new." Lisa nodded. "That's what we do. We take the best from everyone and make it our own. But this is just the beginning. The main swarm fleet is still coming and they'll be ready for us next time." "Then we'll have to be ready for them too," Arya replied. "My magic grows stronger when I fight alongside humans. Your mental patterns amplify elven power in ways I never expected. And Keth Mori warriors fight better when they don't have to worry about psychic attacks," Zexira said. "Human immunity protects us too somehow." As the 3 women watched the stars, Lisa felt something she hadn't experienced since the crisis began. Hope was growing throughout the human fleet. Word of their victory at Kepler Station was spreading to other species who had chosen to stay and fight. Maybe, just maybe, their stubborn refusal to retreat was becoming something more. Maybe it was becoming a rallying cry for everyone who believed that some things were worth fighting for, no matter what the odds. The main Void Swarm fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system 3 months later. Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the sensor readings with growing concern. The numbers were worse than anyone had expected. Thousands of bioships filled the darkness between stars, each one larger than the scouts they had faced at Kepler Station. "Admiral Chen is requesting all ship captains for an emergency meeting," reported the communications officer. Lisa nodded and activated the holographic conference system. The faces of dozens of human commanders appeared around her, along with the few alien allies who had stayed to fight. Admiral Grace Chen looked exhausted but determined. Ladies and gentlemen, long-range sensors confirm our worst fears. The swarm has brought their entire fleet. We are looking at approximately 3,000 bioships of various sizes, including several that are bigger than our largest battleships. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembled captains. Lisa glanced at Arya, who was studying the tactical data with her elven eyes. The princess's expression was grim. However, Chen continued, we are not without advantages. Our victory at Kepler Station has inspired more volunteers to join us. Princess Arya, would you please update us on the alien forces? Arya stepped forward, her silver hair catching the bridge lights. 37 elven ships have arrived from the outer colonies. These are volunteers who refuse the evacuation orders. Additionally, my cousin Lyra has brought 12 technomancers to enhance our magical capabilities. Zexira's scales rustled as she moved closer to the display. The Keth Mori have sent 1 heavy cruiser and 47 warriors. My sister Naxara leads them. They are the best fighters my people have to offer. Dr. Maya Patel raised her hand. Admiral, I have something important to report. My research into the swarm's biology has revealed a critical weakness. Their hive mind operates on a specific psychic frequency. If we can disrupt that frequency, the entire fleet becomes vulnerable. Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. You mean we can turn off their coordination? Theoretically, yes. But the disruption would need to be broadcast from multiple points simultaneously, and it would require someone with strong psychic abilities to focus the signal. All eyes turned to Arya. Elven magic was partially psychic in nature, drawing power from the life force of the practitioner. I can do it, she said quietly, but the effort might kill me, and I would need amplification technology that doesn't exist yet. I can build the amplifiers. Lyra's voice came through the communication system. The elven technomancer appeared on a secondary screen. But we need Keth Mori biotechnology to make it work. Their neural interfaces are more advanced than ours. Naxara's reptilian face appeared next to her sister. The Keth Mori will provide whatever is needed. But this plan requires perfect timing. The swarm must not realize what we are doing until it is too late. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. Then we have our strategy. Captain Martinez, your ship will carry the primary amplifier. You'll need to get close enough to the swarm command vessels to be effective. Lisa felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. How close, Admiral? Close enough that they can't miss you, Maya replied. The signal needs to penetrate their bioships directly. You'll essentially be ramming distance from the largest swarm vessels. The conference ended with final preparations and good luck wishes. As the holographic projections faded, Lisa found herself alone with her core team. Kate Sullivan had joined them, along with the alien volunteers who had become part of the Defiance's extended crew. Captain, my Marines are ready for whatever comes next, Kate reported. But I have to ask, are we really going to fly directly into the middle of that fleet? That's the plan, Lisa confirmed. Someone has to carry the amplifier into range. It might as well be us. Arya placed a slender hand on Lisa's shoulder. You don't have to do this alone. My magic works better when I'm connected to human minds. If you're willing, I can link with your crew psychically. It will make us stronger. Zexira growled approvingly. Keth Mori warriors bond with their battle brothers before major fights. It makes the unit fight as one. I suggest we do the same. Lisa looked around at the faces of her crew. Humans, elves, and Keth Mori working together for a common cause. A year ago, she would never have believed such cooperation was possible. Do it. The psychic linking process was strange and wonderful. Lisa felt her consciousness expand to include Arya's magical awareness and Zexira's warrior instincts. Through the connection, she could sense the determination of every crew member on the ship. They were afraid, but they were also ready to do whatever was necessary. The swarm fleet began moving toward the inner solar system the next day. Their advance was slow but relentless, like a tide of darkness flowing between the planets. Human and allied forces took positions throughout the system, preparing for the final battle. Lisa watched from the bridge as Jupiter's moons fell one by one. The defense stations fought bravely, but they were vastly outnumbered. Each lost position brought the swarm closer to Earth. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth," the communications officer announced. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, but she looked different, older somehow, and carrying a weight that hadn't been there before. "Lisa, the quantum gates are closing. The last evacuation ships have left. Anyone still in the solar system is here by choice." "How many stayed?" Lisa asked. "More than we expected. 50 million humans refused evacuation. Plus all the alien volunteers. They want to see this through to the end." Lisa felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. 50 million people had chosen to stay and fight, rather than flee to safety. "Admiral, we won't let them down. I know you won't. Good luck, Captain. May humanity's stubbornness serve us well one final time." As the transmission ended, Lisa turned to her crew. The psychic link let her feel their emotions directly. Fear was there, but it was overwhelmed by determination and a fierce protectiveness for their home. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's communication system. "In 1 hour, we begin our final approach to the swarm fleet. Dr. Patel's amplifier is ready. Princess Arya's magic is at full strength. Zexira's warriors are prepared for boarding actions if necessary." She paused, feeling the attention of every person on the ship. "We are about to attempt something that no species has ever tried before. We are going to fly directly into the enemy fleet and try to shut down their hive mind. The odds are not good. But we have something the swarm doesn't understand. We have each other." Through the psychic link, Lisa felt the crew's response. Not words, but pure emotion, love, loyalty, and an unshakable determination to protect what mattered most. As the Defiance turned toward the approaching swarm fleet, she knew that whatever happened next, humanity would face it head-on. The battle for Mars lasted 18 hours and ended with humanity's first major defeat. Captain Lisa Martinez watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the red planet's defense grid collapsed under the swarm's relentless assault. Thousands of bioships swarmed over the Martian colonies like hungry insects, consuming everything in their path. "Captain, we're receiving distress calls from the mining stations," reported the communications officer. Her voice was steady, but Lisa could feel the young woman's fear through their psychic link. "There's nothing we can do for them now," Lisa replied, though the words tasted bitter. "We have to stick to the plan." Beside her, Princess Arya Moonwhisper stood motionless at her magical console. The elven amplifier that Lyra had built covered most of the navigation station, its crystalline components pulsing with soft light. Arya's silver hair seemed to glow as she channeled her life force into the device. "The amplifier is responding." "Well," Arya reported. "But I need to be closer to the swarm command ships, much closer." Zexira growled from her position at the tactical station. The Keth Mori warrior had integrated her people's biotechnology with human systems, creating weapon combinations that neither species could have developed alone. "My sensors show the largest bioships are forming a protective formation around their flagship. We'll have to fight through at least 50 vessels to reach it." Dr. Maya Patel looked up from her science station. "The psychic disruption signal is ready, but we only get one chance. If the swarm realizes what we're doing before Arya can complete the broadcast, they'll adapt their frequency and we'll lose our advantage." Lisa nodded and activated the fleet communications. "All ships, this is Captain Martinez. Operation Final. Stand is now active. We are beginning our approach to the swarm flagship." The response was immediate. Every human and allied vessel in the system turned toward the massive swarm fleet. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they flew straight at the enemy without hesitation. Commander Kate Sullivan's voice crackled over the internal communications. "Captain, my boarding teams are ready. If we can get close enough, we'll keep the smaller bioships busy while you complete the mission." "Understood, Kate. Good hunting." The Defiance accelerated toward the heart of the swarm fleet, followed by a dozen other ships. The enemy responded quickly, sending waves of biofighters to intercept them. The small creatures moved like living bullets, their acidic weapons eating through hull armor. "Elven stealth fields are holding," Arya announced. "They can see us, but they can't get a perfect lock." Lisa watched the tactical display as red dots swarmed toward her ship. "Zexira, how are our weapons?" "Kethamori biocannons are charged and ready. Human kinetic rounds are loaded. We have enough ammunition for approximately 12 minutes of sustained combat." Then we better make those 12 minutes count. The first wave of biofighters reached them as they passed Jupiter's orbit. The Defiance's combined weapon systems tore through the alien creatures, but more kept coming. Lisa felt the ship shudder as acid projectiles found their mark. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported the damage. "Control officer, emergency teams are responding." Through the psychic link, Lisa could feel the pain of her ship as if it were her own body. But she could also feel the determination of her crew. No one was backing down. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildup from the Swarm flagship," Maya announced. "They're charging some kind of super weapon." Lisa looked at the main screen where the enormous bioship dominated the view. It was the size of a small moon, covered in pulsing organic turrets and weapon pods. If that thing fired its main weapon at Earth, the planet would be defenseless. "Arya, how much longer do you need?" The elven princess was glowing now, her life force flowing into the amplifier at a dangerous rate. 5 more minutes. "But Captain, that flagship is going to fire long before then. Then we stop it the old-fashioned way." Lisa turned to her weapons officer. "Target all kinetic rounds at the flagship's main weapon. Fire everything we have." The Defiance's railguns spoke with thunder, sending tungsten slugs racing toward the massive bioship. Other human vessels followed suit, concentrating their fire on the alien superweapon. Explosions bloomed along the creature's hull as the kinetic rounds tore through its organic armor. But the flagship was too large and too well protected. Their weapons barely scratched its surface. "Captain, the superweapon is still charging," Maya reported. "Estimated time to firing, 3 minutes." Lisa felt despair creep into her thoughts, but it was pushed away by something else. Through the psychic link, she felt the determination of every human in the fleet. They had come too far to give up now. "Kate, deploy all boarding pods. Target the flagship's weapon clusters." "Ma'am, at this distance, that's a suicide mission." "I know. Do it anyway." The escape pods launched from every human ship, carrying Marines and volunteers directly into the teeth of the enemy's defenses. Lisa watched them go, knowing that most would never return. But their sacrifice might buy Arya the time she needed. Zexira's sister Nexara led the Kethmori warriors in a desperate charge against the smaller bioships. Their natural armor allowed them to survive impacts that would kill humans, and their biological weapons were perfectly suited for close combat against the swarm creatures. 2 minutes to superweapon firing, Maya announced. Arya's glow was becoming painful to look at directly. The elven princess was pouring her entire life force into the amplifier, pushing the device beyond its safe limits. "Almost there," she whispered. "The signal is building." Lisa felt the psychic disruption beginning to affect the swarm fleet. Some of the smaller bioships were starting to move erratically, their coordination breaking down. But the flagship was still charging its weapon. 1 minute to firing. "Captain," Kate's voice came through the communications, weak with static. "My teams have reached the flagship's weapon clusters. We're going to try something crazy." Through the view screen, Lisa could see tiny figures moving across the surface of the massive bioship. They were planting explosive charges directly on the creature's nerve centers. 30 seconds to firing, Arya screamed as she released the full power of the disruption signal. The amplifier exploded in a shower of crystals and magical energy, but not before broadcasting the psychic frequency throughout the swarm fleet. The effect was immediate and devastating. Thousands of bioships suddenly stopped moving in coordination. They began firing on each other, their hive minds shattered by the elven magic and human technology working together. But the flagship's weapon was still charging. 10 seconds, Maya reported. Lisa closed her eyes and felt the thoughts of every person under her command. Humans, elves, and Kethmori united in one final moment of defiance. They had done everything they could. The flagship's weapon fired, sending a beam of destructive energy toward Earth, but at the last second, Kate's Marines detonated their charges. The massive bioship convulsed as its nervous system was severed, and the energy beam went wide, missing Earth by millions of kilometers. As the flagship died, its psychic death scream finished what Arya's signal had started. The entire swarm fleet fell into chaos, their collective intelligence shattered beyond repair. Lisa opened her eyes to see thousands of bioships drifting helplessly in space. Some were still alive, but they moved like animals instead of a unified force. The hive mind was broken. "We did it," she whispered, hardly believing it was true. But the victory had come at a terrible cost. Arya lay unconscious at her station, her life force nearly depleted. Throughout the fleet, ships reported heavy casualties. They had won, but just barely. 6 months after the battle that broke the Void Swarm, Captain Lisa Martinez stood in the medical bay of the Defiance, watching Princess Arya Moonwhisper take her first steps since the great victory. The elven princess moved slowly, her silver hair now streaked with white from the magical strain she had endured. But her eyes still held the fire that had convinced her to stay and fight when her people fled. "The doctors say you're lucky to be alive," Lisa said, offering her arm for support. Arya smiled weakly. "Elven magic draws from life force itself. I gave almost everything I had to power that signal, but it was worth it to see the swarm's hive mind shatter." Through the medical bay windows, they could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. The planet bore scars from the battle, but it was still whole. Still home to billions of humans, who had chosen to stay and fight rather than flee to distant stars. Dr. Maya Patel entered the room carrying a datapad filled with reports. "Captain, we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading faster than anyone expected." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "What kind of messages?" "Congratulations, mostly, but also requests for help. It seems breaking. The swarm's hive mind didn't destroy all of them. Individual bioships are still active across dozens of star systems. They're not coordinated anymore, but they're still dangerous." Zexira's voice came from the doorway as the Kethmori warrior entered. "My people have sent word that they want to return from their hiding places. They're asking permission to join the cleanup operations." "And the Elven Confederation?" Arya asked, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. "They're being more cautious," Maya replied, "but several colony worlds have volunteered to send ships and supplies." Lisa felt a familiar mixture of pride and frustration. Humanity had proven that running away wasn't the only option, but it would take time for other species to fully accept that lesson. "What about the quantum gates? Are the evacuation routes still open?" "Most of them, yes. But here's the interesting part," Maya continued. "A lot of the evacuees are asking to come back. Apparently, word of our victory has inspired them. They want to help rebuild what the swarm destroyed." Admiral Grace Chen's voice came over the communication system. "Captain Martinez, please report to the bridge. We have visitors." Lisa, Arya, and Zexira made their way to the bridge, where the main view screen showed 3 ships approaching the Defiance. One was clearly Elven, its hull covered in the flowing organic curves that marked their technology. Another was Kethmori, all angles and armored plating. The third ship was unfamiliar, but its design suggested another species entirely. "Captain, this is Princess Lyra Starweaver," came a voice from the Elven ship. "I'm requesting permission to come aboard with representatives from the Kethmori High Command and the Centaurian Alliance." Lisa glanced at Arya, who nodded encouragingly. "Permission granted, Princess Lyra. Docking Bay 2 is ready to receive you." An hour later, the senior staff of the Defiance gathered in the main conference room. Lisa found herself facing a remarkable assembly. Lyra looked much like her cousin Arya, but her eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen the consequences of retreat. The Kethmori representative was an elderly warrior whose scales bore the scars of countless battles. The Centaurian delegate was tall and blue-skinned, with large eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Captain Martinez," Lyra began, "I bring greetings from the Reformed Elven Confederation Council. We have voted to establish a permanent military alliance with humanity." The Kethmori representative, who introduced himself as War Master Grixtar, growled his agreement. "The Kethmori Empire acknowledges that our retreat was a mistake. We offer our full military support for future operations against swarm remnants." The Centaurian delegate spoke in a musical voice. "The Centaurian Alliance represents 43 species that evacuated during the swarm crisis. We have come to formally request membership in what many are calling the Terran Defense Coalition." Lisa felt a moment of disorientation. "Terran Defense Coalition?" "That's what the galaxy is calling your alliance," Lyra explained. "Humanity's refusal to retreat has become legendary. Species that ran from the swarm now want to learn how to stand and fight." Zexira leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? A permanent alliance, War Master Grixtar replied. Shared technology, joint military operations, and a commitment to face future threats together instead of running away. Lisa looked around the table at the faces of former enemies who had become allies. I need to discuss this with Admiral Chen and the Human Council, but I can tell you that humanity believes in standing together. We proved that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. There is one more thing, the Centaurian delegate added. Our long-range sensors have detected something disturbing. The Void Swarm may have been just the advance force of something larger, something that exists in the space between galaxies. Maya leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. What kind of something? We're not sure, yet. But if our analysis is correct, the galaxy may face an even greater threat in the coming years, one that will require all of our species working together to survive. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine, but it was followed immediately by determination. Whatever was coming, they would face it the same way they had faced the swarm. Together, with courage and stubborn refusal to give up. Then we better start preparing, she said. Commander Sullivan, I want you to begin training exercises with our new allies. Dr. Patel, start analyzing any data they have on this new threat. Princess Arya, if you're feeling up to it, I'd like you to work with Princess Lyra on developing new magical applications. Arya smiled, some of her old strength returning. I thought you'd never ask. As the meeting concluded and the various delegations prepared to return to their ships, Lisa found herself alone with Zexira on the observation deck. The Kethamori warrior had become one of her closest friends during the long months of preparation and battle. Do you ever regret staying? Lisa asked. Zexira's laugh was a deep rumble. Never. My people taught me that honor comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves, but you humans taught me something else. Sometimes the greatest honor comes from refusing to accept defeat, even when everyone says you should. And what did we learn from you? That strength comes in many forms. Kethmori armor, elven magic, human stubbornness. Alone, any one of us would have fallen to the swarm. Together, we became something none of our species had ever been before. Lisa nodded, watching as the first ships of the new alliance began to arrive. Representatives from dozens of species that had fled the swarm were returning, eager to learn humanity's secret. But there was no secret, really. Just a simple refusal to believe that some fights couldn't be won. 6 months ago, humanity had stood, alone against impossible odds. Today, they were part of something larger, a coalition of species that had learned to face their fears instead of running from them. Whatever came next from the darkness between galaxies, they would meet it the same way they had met the Void Swarm. Head-on, together, and with absolute refusal to surrender. Because sometimes, when others escape, someone has to face the battle head-on. And humanity had discovered that they were very good at being that someone. As the stars wheeled overhead and new ships continued to arrive, Lisa Martinez allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had not only saved their own world, but had shown the entire galaxy that retreat was not the only option. The war against the darkness was far from over. But for the first time in galactic history, the forces of light had learned to stand their ground and fight back. And that, Lisa thought, made all the difference in the universe.